Hey everybody, Matthew Coller, Sam Ekstrom here from Lambeau Field as we follow up the Minnesota Vikings loss to the Green Bay Packers, in which they became eliminated from the NFL playoffs. And Sam, they couldn't have been eliminated in more appropriate fashion than to have been blown out by Aaron Rodgers, whose team is fighting for the 1 seed in the NFC North. So I think we have to start or the 1 seed in the NFC. I think we have to start with the Vikings' decision to play Sean Mannion as opposed to Kellen Mond, and then not even play Kellen Mond outside of one series when Sean Mannion was having cramps in a very sad offensive performance here at Lambeau.
Yeah, I think the Vikings were justified in their decision to start Sean Mannion, but to craft that type of game plan for Mannion to play as conservatively as he did, and for the Vikings not to turn to Kellen Mond when it clearly wasn't working, and then to oddly pull Mond back for the final series after he got one series in, putting Mannion back in the game off of his cramps. It was just a bizarre handling of the quarterback situation. And then probably even more prominent, Mike Zimmer burying Kellen Mond after the game in the postgame, saying he doesn't really care to see him next week because he sees him every day, implying that, man, he really is unimpressed with the rookie Kellen Mond. And that just speaks to kind of, I don't know if it's a rift, but between the GM and the coach, it just doesn't seem to be very aligned right now.
Right. You would have thought that Zimmer would say something like, you know, guys, the kid is developing and you have to give him time. And instead, nothing like that from Mike Zimmer, his typical over honesty at times. But Sam, I thought that one of the biggest issues here for this game was right from the very start, the offensive game plan. It really should have been anything and everything to get Justin Jefferson the football, whether it was down the field, whether it was short. They tried one little pop pass, and then it seemed like never went back to anything that was a quick throw to Justin Jefferson. He made a couple of catches, but they were down the field, which clearly Green Bay was going to try to stop Justin Jefferson down the field. There were opportunities to maybe get shorter passes to him, screen passes, throw screens to Dalvin Cook. I remember only one screen to Dalvin Cook. And yet after the game, though their biggest failure was trying to get their football to the best players in the passing game, Mike Zimmer still came out and said, you know what? We needed to run the ball more. And I found that to be particularly bizarre because I couldn't think of any times where they should have run the ball and decided to pass it. And yet it seems to be his go-to criticism for just about everything.
I think there's one play in the first half when the game might have still been in the balance where you could say, okay, they could have run the ball there. That was the 1st and 10 on, I think, their third series when they got sacked. And Mike Zimmer referenced that play after the game. That's the only play. Are you getting upset about one play? Really? I mean, in principle, sure, try to establish the run, but think about the play sequences. If your first down play is unsuccessful, you kind of have to throw. When you're down by 17 points going into the second half, you kind of have to throw, like the game situation and the down and distance dictates what you have to do. So is Mike Zimmer saying that you have to run it every 1st and 10? That's not balanced. That's not good offensive coaching. It's very strange the way that this has shifted after the Chargers and Packers games. The Vikings were throwing it all around. They were winning. Mike Zimmer was talking about being aggressive. We thought this was new Zim. And then Chicago and Green Bay games, 2 of the last 3 weeks, he's talking about needing to run it more. Very bizarre shift. Don't fully understand why this happened, but again, it seems like there's once again a Zimmer offensive coordinator spat as we go into the final week of the year. No one is really happy right now, Matthew.
Not exactly the first time Mike Zimmer and an offensive coordinator have been at odds with how they want things done. It seems more of just Mike Zimmer taking it out on the offensive coordinator, as he has so often done throughout his tenure. But on his side of the football, the defensive side, not exactly a performance that kept them in the game. If the Vikings hadn't been down 20, maybe a field goal at the end of the first half gets them going, or they feel like they can start the second half with a little momentum getting the ball back. But instead, the Vikings defense did not hold up. In fact, it was really the Packers offense that helped them. They failed on a 4th down. They dropped a wide open touchdown pass, but the Packers were moving the ball so easily from the very start of the game on the ground and through the air that it was clear that they had a really good chance to just keep doing that when the Vikings offense was not succeeding. But if there was going to be a world where they competed in this game, they were going to have to play decently on defense against Aaron Rodgers. And instead, Rodgers looked like the MVP. And once again, the Vikings running defense was nowhere to be found. And now it's 2 straight seasons, Sam, of a defense that is among the very worst in the entire NFL. And so if Mike Zimmer wants to throw jabs across the bow at the offensive side, he really should look in the mirror at his side of the ball, which has not been good at all this season and did not give them any chance. If they had played really well on defense, then a struggling offense would have at least kept them in the game, kept them within a touchdown or 2 away. And instead, it was over pretty fast once the Packers got rolling.
Yeah, I think it was predictable that after Green Bay scored just 6 points through 4 drives, that Aaron Rodgers, very much like he did at US Bank Stadium in November, was going to come alive. And I think in that game, he scored like 4 straight drives. And today it was 3 straight touchdown drives to absolutely put this thing out of reach. And Patrick Peterson, the veteran, coming out after the game saying, number one, we couldn't stop a nosebleed in the second half. And number 2, questioning why he wasn't shadowing Davante Adams earlier, which I thought was peculiar as well, because we know Aaron Rodgers is going to identify the weak matchup, and Chris Boyd against Davante Adams is a non-contest. I mean, Davante Adams is going to win that every time. 11 catches, 136 yards, I think, 1 touchdown. I mean, just another virtuoso performance by Adams. And the Vikings defense now, you look at the last several weeks, gashed by the Rams. Not a good running team in the Rams, by the way, gashed. The Packers, not always a great running team either, gashed by them. I mean, truly a baffling performance that kind of rivaled the Saints game last year, where Mike Zimmer said he was embarrassed. He had the worst defense in his coaching career. And sadly, this one rivals it. And this team, they kind of got there a different way, but they're right in the same spot they were last year.
And now as we record this, we don't know where the organization will go by the time you're watching it. The Vikings may be searching for a new coach, or it might take another week for them to be searching for a new coach. I don't know where it goes, Sam, but I think after watching 2 straight seasons of this and 4 straight seasons since 2017 of this team having very much performances like this, where we get to December, they're in the playoff race, they've got a chance to win the division or to get in the playoffs, and they stay in the hunt graphic. And then even when we arrived at Lambeau Field, they had a 7% chance to make the playoffs according to NBC, and then all 7% disappeared as they lost to the Green Bay Packers. So we go into the final week of the season for the second straight year where they're not playing for anything. I don't know how the Vikings, after watching this, could continue to go on with the things that they've been doing and think, oh yeah, this process is eventually going to work. So this may have been the final nail in the coffin of the Mike Zimmer era in Minnesota.
Indeed, it could. A meaningless Week 18 game is not what this team intended for this year. And it's obviously pretty tough to swallow as a fan base when you see defensive coaches' defense kind of melt down 2 consecutive years. It's deflating when you see a quarterback who's been paid well over $100 million miss the playoffs 3 out of 4 years. It's disappointing when you see a general manager's 3rd-round quarterback not able to play in a game because his head coach doesn't think he's ready, or for that matter, any of your 3rd-round picks making an impact. I mean, really, all 3 of these powerful figures in this organization, Zimmer, Spielman, and Cousins, have to feel awfully insecure tonight as they go to sleep, not knowing what tomorrow's going to bring.
Well, it'll be a very interesting offseason, because I'm not going to say that about Week 18. Unfortunately for Vikings fans, they will spend the final week of the season watching other playoff races, and then once again watch the playoffs from their couches rather than going to playoff games or traveling to wherever the Vikings are playing deep into the postseason. So that won't be happening once again this year for Vikings fans, and it opens the door for maybe a retooling of everything that's gone on in this organization. So of course we'll be here for you. And if you want to check out our longer podcasts, Purple Insider, just go wherever you get your podcasts, and we are there for you with much more in-depth breakdown of everything that happened tonight here at Lambeau and that could happen. We appreciate you watching as always and throughout the year for our post-game videos. And we appreciate this little guy who's been with us the whole time, the Snowball. Usually I try to keep it out of the shot, Sam, but there's no real option.
We thought we'd let it make an appearance on this notable night.
Great little desktop mic if you want one. Have a good night, everybody.